Hey there, this is Julie the Garter Girl. I wanted to make a quick video for you today if you find yourself suddenly having to work virtually or remotely with your wedding vendors and having to plan your wedding online and you can't have those face-to-face meetings that you were expecting to have or that you were hoping to have with your wedding professionals. Again, my name is Julie and my business is the Garter Girl, and I do hand make stylish wedding garters for brides, heirlooms that you're going to love forever. But I do like to hop on here to YouTube and give you tons of wedding tips that are not just wedding garters, and I will link it below. I also have a ton of blog posts that can help you. But today I wanted to talk to you what to do if you find yourself having to work virtually with your wedding vendors, like your wedding planner or your cake designer, your florist, etc. So first of all, this is something that folks who are planning destination weddings or weddings not in their hometown or where they live have been having to do for years. So we can take cues from our friends in the destination wedding area about how to work remotely with our wedding vendors. So I have 9 tips that I'm going to give you today, and the first one is to schedule the time. Okay, block out the time. I know there's a lot going on, and you're probably working from home, you've got a lot of things, but schedule the time. Most vendors, they can handle all the things, right? They can do the Zoom, the Google Hangouts, the FaceTime, whatever sort of works for you. So it's not necessarily about the technology and what exactly you're using. It's more about just blocking the time. Okay, so if they say, okay, we're gonna have a call at 1 o'clock, like, you need to be there, you need to get ready, and you need to make sure whatever platform you're gonna be using, it works, you're logged in, you've blocked the time out, you're not doing a million other things. Like, you've scheduled the time. If your fiance needs to be there too, that person should be ready and available as well. The second tip is to do the prep work. If you have any homework that you were supposed to do, any research, any conversations you were supposed to have, do that too in advance of the call. You don't want to have to get on the call and say, well, I didn't talk to so-and-so, well, I never looked at X, Y, and Z. No, you want to do your prep work before the call. And if you're not ready, postpone it. Say, hey guys, it's not working today. I didn't have a chance to do the things. Should we reschedule? And one quick tip from before, the first tip is just also make sure that you are already logged into your platform, and you're not saying, okay, our call's at 10 o'clock, then I'm going to open Skype and I'm going to see, and you want to take care of that in advance. Same with all this prep work. If you were supposed to make decisions or if you were supposed to talk to certain people, get that over with in advance. And if you're not ready, just be honest. Say, hey guys, I didn't have a chance to do X, Y, and Z. Should we still have our call today, or do you want to put it off for a little bit later? So do the prep work. The third thing is to make an agenda. You really, again, the time is precious, and you want to make the most of the call before it even happens. So before the call happens, you think about how the call wants to go. What are your expectations? What are you hoping to get out of this? What's the purpose of the call? How long do you have? If you only have 30 minutes or an hour, or the other person that you're talking with only has 20 minutes, you really want to make the most of your time. So I definitely make it a priority to make an agenda before the call. Now, you don't have to type it out bullet points unless you want to, but you can just jot it down right before the call and make sure you go over in your mind the things that you're hoping to get out of this, so that you don't end the call and say, man, I never talked about X, Y, or Z, and then feel disappointed. If you have a wedding planner or a wedding vendor that you're having a call with that sends you an agenda prior to your phone call, they're a keeper. That is some serious planning, and that person knows definitely what they're doing. The fourth tip is to limit the socializing. I know it can be tempting because maybe you're friends with your wedding vendors, your planner, or maybe you just really like them personally and you guys hit it off. I know it can be tough that when you get on the video call, especially if you've been, working from home and you haven't really been talking to people, you want to chit chat, you want to talk about things. How are you doing? How are you personally? But you really want to limit that. If you are, truly friends with this person, set another time to do that. But when you are on this call, you're most likely on the clock, which means that you're paying for it, whether it's coming out of your total bill, or maybe they're charging you by the hour. Either way, you're most likely paying for the call, so you want to make it to be efficient. You don't want to spend 30 minutes chit-chatting and then they have to get off the phone in 15 minutes, so you're rushing. So really limit the socializing on these calls. Number 5 thing is to limit the distractions. I sort of talked about this earlier, but again, you're probably on the clock with these people, so you don't want to be texting and on social media or being distracted with other things. So really limit those outside distractions, and it's going to actually probably in the end save you money because you're going to be more efficient and you're not going to be, having to have the call again or reschedule the call. The 6th thing is to ask the right questions. So this is my favorite question to ask anybody that I'm working with, whether it's on, an interior designer or just any professional, but especially wedding professionals, is that this question is, what am I not asking you about that I need to know about? Or what do I need to know that we have not discussed yet? And what that does is it gets them thinking, like they're running back over the conversation in their head, making sure that they've told you everything. And it's really important because they do this all the time. They're professionals, right? And this is most likely the first time you've done this. So when you ask the question, what am I not asking you? It really puts the ball in their court to make sure that it's on them that you know exactly everything you're supposed to know, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if you're not asking the right questions. So really just ask them, what do I need to know that we haven't talked about yet? It's my favorite question to ask. Number 7 is let your vendors guide you. Again, when you're virtually planning and you don't have those face-to-face meetings, and whether it's your cake designer and you can't taste it, or your caterer and you can't taste the food, or your florist, you can't see and touch the flowers as well. Like, you really just want to trust them. Let them guide you. Let them help you. They are the professionals. You hired them for a reason. And if you've worked with a wedding planner, you really want to trust them. They know the people that they have helped you to hire. So you want to let your professionals do their job, and you really, really have to trust them now more than ever. When you can't have those face-to-face meetings, you can't have the tasting, things like that, you really need to trust your professionals that they are professional and they can handle it for you. Number 8 is, when the call is over, do not get off without your action items and their action items. You need to know what you're supposed to be working on, and they need to know what they're supposed to be working on. So just say, hey, before this call is over, what am I supposed to be working on now? What can I expect in the next couple of weeks? What are you going to be doing? That way you know these things are happening. And when you have your future calls, you know what you need to do to prepare for them. You don't want to get off the call and go, wait, what am I supposed to be doing? So really, you just need to know what you need to expect after the call ends. So make sure to ask that before you get off the call. What am I supposed to be working on next? What are you going to be working on in the next few weeks? And the 9th thing is to pre-schedule your future calls. So with your wedding planner, you're probably going to have like regular check-ins, and they should probably tell you. But you want to know what those calls are going to be in advance. Like, for example, with your planner, they're probably going to have like maybe every 2 weeks they'll want to check in with you, maybe every month if you're kind of in that, if there's a long lead time in your engagement. And then maybe when your wedding gets closer, maybe you'll have like a call every week or something like that. But just ask them. You want to try to get these calls and things scheduled, get them on the calendar so that you know when they're happening, you know what you're working towards, and it's not like you're having to say, when are you free? I don't know. But you just say, okay, pre-schedule those meetings in advance. With some of your other wedding professionals, you might not be able to pre-schedule those meetings because you're not going to be having as many of the video calls. Like, you might have an initial video call where you're interviewing them, seeing if they're the right person for you, if they're the right fit. Then you might have a second video call after you've hired them to kind of go over the logistics, and then for your specific event. And then you might have a third video call as it gets really close to your wedding, to making sure everyone's on board, they know exactly what they're doing, they're going to show up at this time, everything's on board. And for those folks, I'm talking about like your DJ, your florist, your cake designer, hair and makeup, hairstylist, caterer, that kind of thing. You might not have as many calls with them maybe like 3 max. Like I said, the interview, the details, like, and then the third one would be like right before the wedding, to go over final instructions. But with your wedding planner, or your photographer was another one in that you might only have like maybe 3 video calls with them. And then with your wedding planner, you might have very regular calls with them. But try to get a sense, like, how many calls can I expect? When? Let's get them on the calendar now so that we're not running around scrambling trying to find dates and you're busy, they're busy, etc. So I hope that helps. Those were my 9 tips for if you find yourself suddenly having to work virtually with your wedding professionals. And you know, a lot can be done on a video call. As you probably know, you're probably working from home, and a lot can be done on a video call, and you can get a really good sense for people. But it's really important that you do the 9 things that I'm talking about to make sure that the call is as successful as it can possibly be. You don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste money by not having a productive meeting. So I will link the blog post below where I have even more tips for how to have a virtual meeting with your wedding professionals. And again, my name is Julie. My business is the Garter Girl. I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. I have lots of videos already about wedding planning tips in general. So it's not just wedding garters, although I have a lot of tips about those. I have a lot of wedding tips in general that I hope will help you. All right, thanks guys. See you next time.